Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everywhere you're listening to me. Today is another beautiful day. I greet the moderators, the hosts. I greet you, Madam Ajoke. I greet you, the host, Umido. I don't want to mention your name. I know you might not be. Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
I really want to greet everybody in the name of Almighty God, in the name of Olodumare. I greet everybody that is in the audience. I greet Ogbeni, Femi, Mupao, Montero, Mayegun, Engineer Femi, Babatunde, Ekundayo. I greet all the executives of TYF in the audience and on stage. I greet you all in the name of Olodumare. Today is going to be another beautiful day. Today is another Yoruba Rono series. Yoruba Rono is not just where we just congregate and lament. It is a place where we educate, where we enlighten our minds, where we continue to preach the message of Yorubanism. On behalf of Think Yoruba First organization, I also welcome you again into another wonderful edition. As you've been observing, we've started putting many of our lectures, the long and the short lectures, on our YouTube page. So if you're on YouTube, if you want to enjoy our past lectures, for the past 2-3 weeks, our lectures are going to be on these platforms. You can go to www.thinkyorubafirst. Go to just press Think Yoruba First on Google. You should on Google, and you can find our YouTube address at our YouTube handle, where you can enjoy many of our lectures, play it when you're driving to work, share it with your friends and families. Also, we also have Spotify. We're also on Spotify. Just go, if you're a podcast person, go on Spotify. You are going to see our lectures there. You can easily get access to it. We're also on Facebook, Think Yoruba First page on Facebook. We're also on TikTok, and we're also on Instagram. We want to ensure that this message circulates and permeates the entire subterranean and surface of the Yoruba society, both home and abroad. When I mean Yoruba, I'm talking about beyond Nigeria as a whole. I'm talking about the Yoruba-speaking world. Just the way we have the German-speaking world, just the way we have the French-speaking world, just the way we have the Jewish world, we also have the Yoruba world. The Yoruba world transcends from West Africa into North America, into the Caribbean, and into South America. That is where we have the Yoruba world. Now we are all over Europe, we are all over Asia, and we are also in the Oceania continent. That is the Yoruba world. Today is going to be a wonderful day, because for the past 1 week, there's a particular burning issue that has shaken the Nigerian social media space. A lot of people are happy. A lot of people are angry. Threats are flying left, right, and center. A lot of people are even thinking, oh, this will be the end of Tinubu. This will make Tinubu get destroyed. A lot of people think, oh, this will shame the Yoruba people. We've seen threats, even some Arewa supremacists, Arewa nationalists, saying that they are going to secede from Nigeria. Anyway, that's not the first time they've made that threat. They made a threat in the 1950s when they said they are going to go and form their own Islamic Republic of Northern Nigeria. They also made a threat after the 1966 counter coup, when they were shouting Araba, 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 meaning divide it, divide it, divide it. So the threat of secession did not start in 2014, or some people think IPOB or Biafra started secession. No. People like Muritala Muhammad were former secessionists. I'm going to say that here openly. They were people who supported secessionist ideology, that they wanted to take Arewa out of Nigeria in order to protect the interests of Arewa. So it's so funny when some people now start acting as the alpha and omega of patriotism on the Nigerian, when we talk about Nigeria. So the only people that have actually not floated the secessionist ideology out of the three Wasobias are the Yoruba people. And that's why a lot of people feel, some people don't take us serious. People think people can come around and start using our space and our lands and our people to build their own empire within the Nigerian within the Nigerian equation. So today we are going to talk about taxation, tax, the Adubi War, and the American Revolution. We all know why a lot of people what happened during the week about value-added tax, VAT, that the federal government wanted to say, look, we cannot run Nigeria like a colonial plantation. We cannot have a Nigeria where some part of Nigeria believes the rest of us are slaves, are serfs. So the taxes, the way they've been able to construct Nigeria in a way where they've been able to create laws, states, local governments during the era of the military as the foundations, as the basic units of our federation, in order to take more resources in terms of taxes, mineral resources, political power, and concentrate it to themselves at the expense of everyone. And anybody who challenges that is accused of bigotry, is accused of being not patriotic. Let me say this here for the record. If anybody stands up today and say the way Nigeria is structured as regards to resource distribution and taxes is enough to start, and he wants to start a self-determination movement to get out of Nigeria, especially from the South and the Southwest, it is highly justifiable. I say it here. We can put it on record. Highly justifiable. That's why we are going to talk about history today. Because what you have in Nigeria is an abnormality. What you have in Nigeria should not take place in a country that says it wants to be great. If Nigeria has this kind of a structure, Nigeria can never be great. So let's talk about tax. Tax, simply, I'm not going to go into a lot of technical jargons today to explain what tax is all about. Tax is a levy that is imposed on individuals or corporations or businesses by a government in order to derive revenue to run the government. It's a levy. And the history of tax is almost as old as human civilization. And the tax system, it is as the strength of your tax system, the robustness of your tax system, the ability of you for you to be able to get taxes, to have a tax system, actually determines your economic productivity and your economic power. The greatest empires of old had one of the best taxing systems. When we talk about the Roman Empire had one of the best tax systems. And people actually think Roman Empire was all about military power, was all about the sword, the formations, the gladiators. No. The Roman Empire had one of the best tax systems. That's why for people here, you know a little bit about the Bible. You knew about Matthew, the tax collector, who later became one of the apostles of Jesus. So it was because he was collecting taxes, he was a tax collector. People hated tax collectors because, especially in an empire, when the place is being conquered, the people are taxed and money is collected from those places in order to fund the military power and strength of Rome. So that is the issue. So if you go to, and also in the Islamic world, especially in the Ottoman Empire, there were taxes, different taxes. In fact, the Islamic world had one of the best tax systems. The Islamic civilizations of the Middle East, Central Europe, North Africa had one of the best tax systems in the world. So this is just academics. I'm not here to promote one religion or one civilization or the other. And the tax is really differs. For instance, in the Ottoman Empire, the taxes Muslims paid was very different from the taxes non-Muslims paid, especially the Christians and the Jews. So the taxes the Muslims paid, the non-Muslims paid, especially the Christians and the Jews who refused to convert to Islam, was called the jizya tax. So if you don't want to get that tax, you have to convert. So tax is different. The taxes is not just a tax. It's political. It's not just a form of economic venture. It's also highly political. And the issue of taxes has created wars all across the world. It has created revolutions. It has created war. It has led to bloody chaos all across the world, across different continents. So tax is not just tax. Taxes has the ability to lead to wars, even more than mineral resources. Because between 1900 to 1960, the Aba Women's Riot, the Adubi War, and the Egba Women Revolt was due to tax. The Agbekoya War was also an issue of tax. So tax issues, if it is not well properly handled, has the ability to lead to a big conflagration. So what I mean, conflagration, especially within Nigeria. Nigeria is not properly structured. And the way Nigeria is structured, it does not promote productivity. Nigeria does not appreciate productivity. Nigeria does not appreciate meritocracy amongst its federating units. Because what has happened is that some people from a particular part of the country created a system that treated the rest of Nigeria as conquered people. So they first started with the allocation of resources from minerals, solid minerals, from mineral resources, especially oil and gas. So the allocation of the oil and gas actually was due to population sizes, was due to local government, was due to land mass. That was what they used. It doesn't matter what you bring to the table. It doesn't matter what you are adding. It doesn't matter maybe your places, you are building economy, you are building industries. Doesn't matter. It's just like some people believe, some people have been able, if they had other things, some people created the revenue sharing system to favor their own people. So let me now go back to what taxation. So taxation is the system of collecting tax. So what we've been talking about is VAT. VAT is tax based on consumption. It's a consumption tax. That is VAT, value-added tax, that you collect in different stages of production of a particular product. So that is the VAT. And there is so I don't want to go in there yet before I start talking about the issue of Nigeria. And to all Yorubas that are listening to me, the reason why you can talk about tax today is that you are lucky that they were not able to put VAT in the exclusive list. Maybe you did not know. People can go back and check. In 2022, under the regime of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, some people sponsored a bill in the National Assembly to make sure that VAT was added, put into the exclusive list. Fortunately, that satanic bill was defeated. So because VAT taxes was not a big issue during the time of the military, everybody was looking about crude oil. Times of Abacha, IBB, Buhari, Shagari, Gowon. It's all about oil. But since 1999, some state governors started doing wonders. States like Lagos, states like Rivers, states like Akwa Ibom, they started doing wonders. And these wonders they were doing, they started creating wealth. And the VAT. So there was just a kind of an act that says a particular Federal Inland Revenue Board can collect tax in Nigeria. But the reality is the issue of VAT was silent in the exclusive list. So that was why you saw the Lagos state government and the Rivers state government, because these places are highly productive. So they took the federal government to court that you are stealing from us. You are looting our resources. You are taking our sweat to take care of other unproductive places within Nigeria. And they won in the Federal High Court. So the reason why those of us that are advocates of a productive Nigeria, where there will be equity. Equality is different from equity. Equality is different from equity. Equity means justice. Equity means justice. So, like, there's a social justice. So, equity is, if Lagos is bringing 20 billion, Lagos should get more of its own, what it is contributing into the national Nigerian treasury. You know, not that a particular place, a state that was created because maybe the president, the head of state was from that place, and the state was created, and the place is not viable, actually not viable. So, and they are just collecting money, doing absolutely nothing. So, it's still part of the case, the issue we have with Nigeria, that the fundamentals are wrong in Nigeria. Look, if you really want to change this country, you are going to step on toes. You must be ready to sacrifice your life. You must be ready to be called names. Because when people say, the North is the problem, the North, forget the North. We also have problems in the South. I'm not here to call names. We have problems in the South. We have problems in the South. And I think we have problems in the South too. So we be about people who want to reap where they didn't sow. So it's a very big problem. Nigeria has not been defined. Nigeria was a little bit defined between 1960 to 1966. From 1966 to this current moment, we've been in trouble. The wrong people are in the corridors of power within Nigeria. They are not in Abuja. They are the powers that be. They are the ones who make things happen. They've been the ones determining our destiny. They've destroyed the lives of a lot of our people. But a lot of our people don't actually understand how to fight this monster. And that is why we are here to engage in an intellectual conversation. You see, taxes. If you take a tax from A and you go and give it to B, it is colonialism. I'm going to tell you how colonialism works using the British Empire. The Adubi War happened in 1918 amongst in the Egba country. By the end of the 19th century, towards the early 20th century, Egba had a kind of independent country. And that country was called Egba United Government. You see, that area of Abeokuta, Ogun State, the French wanted it to be part of their Francophone West African empire. And the French were doing everything possible in order to ensure that the Egba people was part of a country called Benin Republic that we currently have. So the Egba people was in between two European powers. Lord Lugard, the British, also wanted the Egba people to be part of Nigeria, that they were trying to be part of their colonial Commonwealth West African Empire, British Empire. So there was politics being played. But fortunately for the Egba people had a lot of Saros, Yoruba returnees from Sierra Leone, from Brazil, who were educated, who were brilliant. They were fantastic diplomats. So they could, they had relationships, negotiate properly with the British and with the French. So anytime the British wanted to move into the Egba country, the diplomats, who are Yorubas, of course, we quickly tell the British, we are going to call the French to come in. So one way or the other, they just say, okay, let us give, British now say, you are going to be a country. We will not treat you the way we treated the other Yoruba kingdoms. We are not going to annex you the way we annexed Benin. We are not going to annex you the way we annexed Lagos. We are not going to annex you the way we annexed Isheyin or Oyo and all those places, or Ibadan. We are going to give you your own independent country. So, but that is the way the British works. They will be making they will break you into pieces. They will go to A, make deals with you, go to B, make deals with you, in order to divide and conquer. So they were able to make deals with the Egba. So we had the Egba United government. They had their own police. They had their own judiciary. They had their own water. There was water. Apart from Lagos, Abeokuta, Egba land was the most developed area, was the most developed axis in the whole of Nigeria. That was how developed Egba was, Abeokuta was. They were, printing press. It's a very, very learned country. But something happened between 1914 and 1918. And that thing is, especially the historians in our midst, listening to me, was the First Civil War. So the First Civil War is the European wars that happened in the European continent, Ottoman Empire, Germany, fighting the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Germany fighting against the other European powers, British, the French, So what happened was, unfortunately for Germans, they lost the war. The Ottomans also lost the war. The aftermath of that war is why we have the Palestine issue. So what happens 100, 200 years ago is what is affecting our life now. What is happening today will actually determine maybe our children are going to be in bondage or living free. So that's why you see some of us that are dedicating our lives, fighting this battle, speaking up, organizing and mobilizing our people so that we can, because we understand what Nigeria is. Nigeria is not an organic entity. Nigeria is not a nation. Nigeria is an amalgamation. It's an amalgamation. Check the meaning of amalgamation. It is a join. They brought people together to create Nigeria. There were negotiations. And the compromise to create Nigeria was federalism. For Nigeria to happen, it needs to be a federated state. People need to have a say in how they want to be governed. That is why the North insisted, despite Nigeria being a secular state, it must continue to promote and uphold Sharia. At the expense of the rest of us. So that was the negotiation we had for the creation of Nigeria. And that negotiation, the basis in which Nigeria exists, has been destroyed since 1966. That is the basis in which Tinubu is trying to undo. Firstly, change the national anthem. Tinubu is trying to put Nigeria to the basis in which Nigeria was supposed to function. That's what Tinubu is doing. I'm going to say it here. He's not a man that speaks. He's not an orator like Bola Ige. He's not an orator like Awolowo. Tinubu is not an orator. But he knows what he's doing. So he's trying to bring back Nigeria to make Nigeria work. If Nigeria is not a federal state, it will not work and it will collapse. He understands these fundamentals. And those of us that are speaking on top of our voices, speaking with stakeholders, and telling them, and speaking and telling especially the elders, because I fear for my own generation. If these elders leave without solving this problem of Nigeria, the coming generation are going to set Nigeria up on fire. And they are arrogant, they are brash, they are not deep thinkers, they cannot tolerate, and we don't want war. The obedient movement has showed us what Nigeria is going to be. Look at those young children carrying Russian flags. I wish those children are released, carrying Russian flags, up and down. What do they know about Russia? But this is the reality. They are not different from the Yoruba Gen Zs too. They're not different. One are abusing Wale Soyinka, abusing their elders because of politics. Many of them have voted for the first time in 2023. They don't even understand what Nigeria is all about. So the elders, they need to solve this problem before they go. And we have a chance now. If we miss this chance between 2023 and 2027 or 2031 or 2035 to properly set Nigeria up on a federal, on a just and equitable society, we are deceiving ourselves. We are deceiving ourselves. Because everybody will know where Nigeria is going. Oil revenue is no longer flowing in. It is the taxes in Nigeria that is making Nigeria to pay salaries. It is the taxes. It is not even the oil revenue. Oil revenue, so majority of the taxes that Nigeria makes from services and all the things, remittances, is what is keeping this country afloat. And when it comes to taxes, people don't pay attention. When you are digging resources, especially black people, I'm sorry to say that word, you are digging resources, raw materials from their soil, they will not pay attention. But they are working hard. You are taxing them. 40% of their tax, of their money is being taken. And they are watching television. You are taking it to Sokoto. Sokoto is now using that money to sponsor mass marriages or or like in Kano, buying wheelbarrow. It is going to lead to an agitation that people are ready to die for. And we need to stop that. And I believe that's what this government sees. And is trying to do the needful. But according to history, based on historical antecedents, people that are taxed and people that are collecting the tax, they always go to war to sort out many of these issues. We don't pray to go to war. And we hope the current impasse, as regards to tax issue, will be sorted diplomatically. Without some people believe they've been ripped by the Nigerian system. Because Nigeria is currently fragile. And that's why I said war does not pay anybody. And we need to find a way to have a diplomatic solution. So Adubi, as we all know, Ige Adubi is, Oruko Amutorunwani. I don't know I'm going to explain that in English language. Omoti Yabi. Tó fi ẹsẹ̀ wá dípò tí ò bá fi orí wá, òun ni wọ́n pè ní Ige Adubi. Ige Adubi was the head of a particular village, very close to Papa Lato in current day Ogun State. The Adubi War actually took place in Ewekoro, the current Ewekoro local government. That was where the Adubi war took place. And it took place in 1918, I think between June, July. That was when this war took place. Some people said till August, but some people said the war was just 3 weeks. Some historical references said the war was just 2 months. But the Adubi was the village head, like Bale of Elere. You know, that area of Elere village, if I'm right, is it Elere? I know it's going to be Elere. Today, Ibatimulo ka different historical archives, wọ́n ò fi àmì wọ́n ò fi sí ibẹ̀. Bí àbùkù lè jẹ́ Elere ló yẹ kó jẹ́. So Elere village. And during this time, before 1918, there was a massacre that happened in Abeokuta. They call it the Ijemo massacre. Look, let me tell you something about Egba people. Egba people, please, I'm not insulting you. Egba people are very, very rebellious. If you want to cheat them, they will not agree with you. So they don't take nonsense. So after the Ijemo massacre was the massacre that happened conducted by the British in 1914 against a particular people of Ijemo, you know, the villagers who are complaining about the high-handedness of the colonial agents against when they tortured a particular activist. So there was an activist, I think his name is Solanpe, who was of Egba origin, who was an activist. So the issue of activism did not start in 2024 or 1999. Yoruba people are known activists. So there was an activist who was campaigning against the colonial government, that the Egba United government was an independent country. So why should the British be imposing free labor, hard labor, and all those things on the Egba government and be controlling the government? So what happened was that this particular activist was arrested and tortured to death. So the people of Ijemo stood up, you know, and they said the British colonial officials have to go, and the Alake of Egba, who was the president of the Egba United government, also needed to resign. So what happened was that over 40 people were gunned down by the colonial officers. So who shot them dead? It was a massacre. So the issue of government security agents shooting down unarmed people, protesters, did not start in 2020, did not start in 1999. It has always been like that. If you go through the history, the pre-colonial history of Nigeria, the colonial history of Nigeria, and the post-colonial history of Nigeria. So the Ijemo massacre already made a lot of Egba people to be angry. What sort of nonsense is this? How people were killed. And it was during this time Lord Lugard was doing his amalgamation. So in order to be able to, because the Alake wanted to shift and move, change allegiance, and switch over to the French, because Abeokuta and almost half of Ogun State would have been in Benin Republic today. So the British now say, oh, no problem, look, the amalgamation does not affect you. You are still going to have your own complete autonomy outside the rest of the other Yoruba people and the rest of Nigeria. So that was the kind of agreement they had. So the 1914 to 1918 war of the world wars that happened made British broke. Because let me tell you something about British Empire. The British Empire was an exploitative and extractive empire. So what in empire building and in colonialism, it is not fun. Empire building and colonialism is not fun. When they take up a colony, they take up a space, the resources of the place, the human resources of the place is extracted to build the motherland. And that motherland is Europe. It's Europe. So that was what was happening. So after that war ended, Europe was broke. Britain was broke. And they needed more money to be able to run the colonies, to be able to resuscitate their economy. So what they did was they now imposed direct taxes on the people of Egba. And the people of Egba, they are very proud people, free people. Firstly, this kind of a tax, this is a foreign government, and they were not happy with the way some Egba chiefs were participating in this. So it was about the deputy of Adubi, Ige, who was the head of the Elere village. Now, Elere village had a lot of sugarcane plantation. So it had a lot of sugarcane plantation. So because it had a lot of sugarcane plantation, so it was where the resistance actually started happening. If you observe this song, is it the name of this? Is it Tayo Odula? Tayo that released the song was released in 1971. Fela also sang a song about Ogun Adubi, like Omire Kelem Bushebe, Omire Kelem Bushebe. People that know that song can actually come in and come and help. So because sugarcane was so plenty in that place, and people could not even get out and get water, and they were using sugarcane juice as a source of water and to cook for a very long time. So that was, that song. I know a lot of people are going to come and sing that song. So
Taking cough with you. Kógun tó délẹ̀ tí ń lérí, kógun tó délẹ̀ tí ń lérí, ẹlẹ́rí lérí pẹ́ ó fìbọn jà, ẹlẹ́rí lérí pẹ́ ó fìbọn jà. Ogun Àdùbí tójú mi jà, ogun Àdùbí tójú mi jà. Ogun. Continue, Are, please. I'm in the stop here.
Ẹ ṣé. Mo yàwó pé kan lọ, ìwọ ń bá ń bẹ́ lọ bí ewúrẹ́.
Ẹ̀yin bá ń bẹ́ lọ bí ewúrẹ́, àwọn kan ń bẹ́ lọ bí ìgalà, àwọn kan ń bẹ́ lọ bí ìgalà. Omi ìrèké lẹ fi ń ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀, omi ìrèké lẹ fi ń ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀, lẹ ń bù ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀, lẹ fi ń fọṣọ, lẹ ń bù ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀, lẹ fi ń ṣọra. Kógun tó délẹ̀ tí ń lérí, kógun tó délẹ̀ tí ń lérí, ẹlẹ́rí lérí pẹ́ ó fìbọn jà, ẹlẹ́rí lérí pẹ́ ó fìbọn jà. Ogun Àdùbí tójú èmi jà, ogun Àdùbí tójú rẹ̀ jà.
Ẹ ṣé. Thank you so much. Mo ti pàtẹ́wọ́ fún yín. Ẹ ṣé o, ẹ bá pàtẹ́wọ́ fún ọ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní audience o. Thank you, man. So that was what happened. So the deputy of Ige Adubi, who was Molashin, was the one who overheard the plans of the British to impose, because the British wanted to do it indirectly. So Molashin, I think it's also called Awakwe. So, or Awakwe, Yosha Shemo, he heard it and he quickly went to go and tell Ige Adubi. And Ige Adubi was a chief. I said, look, this is what the British are planning. They are coming to tax us. Direct taxation. We will not agree. We are not going to agree. So immediately the British, the British knew that it was Molassin, the deputy of Ige was the one that went to go and unveil their plans. They arrested him, and that was the beginning of the trouble. He was arrested, and I'm not here to insult our obas, but unfortunately, the Osile, Ake, the Alake, they were part. They were working together with the British. And the Egba people stood up and they started revolting. And they were able to raise an army of close to 30,000 soldiers. There was a particular book, there was a particular newspaper called the Lagos News Standard. Is it Lagos News Standard or Lagos Standard News? It's Lagos News Standard that was published in 1918. It was that newspaper. Unfortunately, I cannot be putting things, I would have been, yes, it was a video, I would have been making a display on, on PowerPoint or projector for people to actually see a lot of these historical records. Was one who gave the description of the Egba army that organized themselves and declared, firstly, they declared independence. They said they wanted to expel the entire British colonial government and their local collaborators from Egba land. And they were able to raise over 30,000 soldiers. And now it was not just the Egba people that populated this army. They had the Ijebu people were there, the Yewa people were there, even some of your people were also part of this army. So it was an Egba army, but there were a lot of other Yoruba groups that also came together. And according to you, this particular newspaper report also said the resistance, the Adubi war was a disaster for Lord Lugard. Absolute disaster. And the war started, and what the Egba, I don't want to say, I won't call them rebels. Because if you go to Wikipedia, if you check some records, they call them the Egba rebels. Why should I be a rebel in my land trying to fight for my rights? So what the Egba people were saying was, how can you be taxing us? You fought a war in Europe. Why should we pay for it? Why should you impoverish us? In order to be able to solve your life, in order to be able for you to survive. You guys are invaders. You invaded us. You said we have a form of autonomy, that our country is different. Why should we pay taxes to you? If you look at what these our valiant ancestors were saying, they were right. And they went to war. So they destroyed a lot of the telegraph, railway stations, around Wasimi, Ototi, a lot of these places. They started destroying British infrastructures in the Egba country. The electricity supply, they started destroying it. And they started attacking Egba chiefs that was working together with the British. They were working together with the British as regards tax collection and in the administration of the Egba country. Like I said, it was Egba United Country, in which the Yalake was the president. So Yalake, you see today, as at 1910, 1911, was a president of an independent country. Was a president of an independent country. So a lot of things happened just less than 120 years ago. 120 years ago, a lot of things changed in our current reality. And we need to understand this history. That's why when some of us talk, and some people are like, cannot we? I want Yoruba nation. They don't, but this is history. We need to know where we're coming from so that we can know where we're going. So, to cut to the chase, Oba Osile was killed. They killed a lot of, they killed some British agents who were also killed. And when Lord Lugard saw what was happening, so Lord Lugard did something. He quickly messaged London, Britain, which was the mother country, that they need a special force called the East African Force. So the East African Force were a special British colonial regiment that had experience fighting indigenous people, jungle wars, warfare, and all the rest. So it was immediately they brought the East African Force, and they brought them into Lagos before they marched into Abeokuta. So it was this particular force that the British used to crush the Egba army, And that war took, I think, roughly 1 to 2 months. That was the end of the war. And in order to have a kind of a political solution, so that the Egba people will not stand up again, they quickly cancelled the implementation of that tax and said they postponed it to 1925. And that was how Egba country became full-blown part of Nigeria by 1918. So that was the day the Egba people lost their sovereignty totally and became part of Nigeria. So because that was the first part before I start talking about the American Revolution. What we can deduce from these parties, there was an uprising due to tax issues. The British has been coming in and out of Egba country for close to 100 years. No problem. Let me say 80 years. Abeokuta was founded in 1830 when they left Ibadan to create Abeokuta. And they made the Ibara people, gave them, I don't want to go into the history of Abeokuta. And they founded Abeokuta in 1830. Because the current place in Ibadan used to be owned by the Egba people. 60 to 70% of the place in Ibadan today used to belong to the Egba people. So this is history. We're not here to, so we are not here to rouse emotions, but this is history. So by 1918, Egba country ceased to exist, like I said. And Egba land became part and parcel of Nigeria. But the tax issue did not end because Madam Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, if you go and watch the film, the movie, you saw how bold Yoruba women are, and now they were challenging the British, challenging the kings, and you're taxing us to death. Why should we be paying, you are taking my taxes. My taxes is not used to, you are not using it to build universities. You are not using it to build railways. You are not using it to build hospitals. You are just taking my taxes and taking it to somewhere else. So that was why by 1951, when 51, 52, 53, 54, when Awolowo also started taxing our fathers in the Western region, in order to raise money for free education and all the other social amenities, a lot of our people started rioting. There were a lot of riots in Ibadan. So don't think when Awolowo first came, everybody loved Awolowo. Awolowo taxed. There was the Western region had one of the best taxation systems. That's why some of us understand the economic principle of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We understand. He's not doing anything new. He's following the process and protocol of Awolowo. He might be tweaking it not to survive the politics and the realities of Nigeria. But Awolowo was seriously taxing the people, our fathers in the Western region. So that was what happened in the 50s. And there was a lot of riots. The reason why we all shout Awolowo now and like Awolowo is great, Awolowo is great, is that Awolowo used the tax he raised from his people judiciously for the benefit of his people. That was what made Awolowo different. That was what made Awolowo different. If not, there was nothing special in what Awolowo did. So he would have been any of our politicians that we all have today. But people could see workings, they could see things. They could see free education, good quality health care, minimum wage. The minimum wage paid in the Western region was the highest. There was quality lifestyle. The agricultural production was doing farm settlement. Awolowo was building stations, radio stations. He was doing things never seen anywhere in the world. We had television stations before France. So the tax was used judiciously. So just imagine the taxes being raised in the Western region being taxed. And let's say there was a law in Nigeria where 70% of the taxes in the Western region was being taken to Abuja and being given to the Northern region. We won't have a Nigeria today. It's impossible. The reason why Nigeria has existed to this current moment, based on this current structure, this parasitic structure, is because a particular part of Nigeria has been able to subsidize our socialist lifestyle. I'm talking about the oil from the Niger Delta. The oil from the Niger Delta is what has subsidized Nigeria till this current moment. And the oil is no longer enough to cater for us. We subsidize petrol, we subsidize education, there's a lot of subsidies in Nigeria that people don't even know. So we are living a fake life. And Nigeria is about to burst. We are printing money in order to pay salary. People don't know Nigeria was actually working towards Venezuela. But you cannot, because you now want to raise taxes, you want to do a tax reform, and you now want to make Nigeria a function on non-oil resources, and to ensure that the federating units actually become productive. Look, for Nigeria to be great, and for Nigeria to be prosperous, it needs a bottom-up approach. Abuja is not the one that is going to make us prosperous. It is our different local governments and different states. That is why you saw Tinubu is doing local government autonomy. He wants to have a form of fiscal federalism because that is the foundation of prosperity. You cannot build prosperity from Abuja in a multi-ethnic state like Nigeria. It's impossible. It is impossible. So look at the success. Let's imagine we have like 20 Lagos states in Nigeria. Or let's leave Lagos. We have just 20 Ogun states in Nigeria. Let's say we don't even talk Ogun, it's even too much. We have just 20 Oyo states functioning at the same, out of the 36 states in Nigeria. Nigeria will not have this level of decadence and economic downturn. It's not going to be this bad because the states are bringing money, they are bringing revenue, they are solving most of the problems the federal government cannot solve. So you go to Lagos State, it is a state that is doing all of the works. Even I saw the Nigerian Railway Corporation coming to Lagos State to come and learn how they run some of their railways to learn. Nigerian Railway Corporation have been existing since over 120 years ago. But Lagos State Railway is just less than railways department is less than 10 years ago, but it's working. But that is the foundation in which Nigeria should be built. When I listen to some of these elders, that's why some of our elders, I don't like insulting elders. I will not. Some of our elders are not helping matters. They say, oh, let us make Nigeria great again. Let us make Nigeria great again. Vote Peter Obi. Vote. That is not the basis of greatness of Nigeria. Nigeria was great when there was proper federalism in the First Republic. And the success of the regions was not the same. Western region was more successful than Northern region. Western region was even more prosperous than Lagos colony. We need to get this fact that there can never be equality of prosperity. California is more prosperous than Utah in America. Florida is more prosperous than Delaware. You need to understand this fact. New Jersey is more prosperous than New Mexico. Zamfara cannot have the same level of prosperity as Rivers State. Kaduna cannot have, Taraba might not be able to compete with Kano in the next 100 years. That is what we call federalism. The issue that Lagos is having blue railway, rail railway, me too, I must have it. There's a madness currently in Nigeria. Everybody is building airports. All this, especially in the north, airports. Sometimes it's like, and I think it's basically one of the reasons is that the roads are no longer safe. The roads are no longer safe. Also, these particular oligarchs, even if it is their own helicopter and private jets that is coming every one month, is enough. So that's the mindset of a typical Nigerian elite. So, anyway, I'm not here to critique government today. So that was what happened in the summary of the Adubi war. Over 600, I think by official estimate, they said over 600 soldiers. I'm not going to call my ancestors rebels because they are not rebels. The colonial records, they said Egba rebels. That's, things like terrorists, rebels, bigots, tribalists, secessionists, in order to paint people who may be a little bit rebellious against the system. That's always been a colonial practice. People, that's why you see people on social media. You're a bigot, you're a tribalist, they give you a bad tag. That's why the name that tag, the thing that says you need to give a dog a bad name in order to kill it or hang it. It's a very profound proverb. So they called the Egba people that said, tax, power. They call them rebels. How can you be a rebel in your land? So let's talk about the American Revolution. The American Revolution is one of the best revolution. When I say the best revolution, gave birth to the most powerful country on the surface of the earth currently. Many people talk about America. Oh, Nigeria should be like America. The question is, do you know the history of America? Do you know what happened? How America became America? I'm going to do the first part of the American Revolution and how taxation created the American Revolution. Taxation. The British that was overtaxing, I said Britain, the British people are very exploitative. The British that were overtaxing the Egba people in 1918, they did the same thing in the 18th century. Between 1760s to 1770s in the United States of America. It is still the same issue of taxation. So Britain is it's an exploitative. They've always been like that. And the British, America was a British colony. And what we call America started with 13 colonies. So when you talk about America outside of 51 states, all those kind of things, those things started. The issue of America having over 50 states is just a recent invention. There were 13 American colonies. And these 13 American colonies, as we said, colony was founded by settlers from Europe. Am I still audible, the moderator? Am I still audible? Okay. Okay. Thank you. So it was 13 colonies
Loud and
that
clear.
made
Ààrẹ
up.
à ń gbọ́ yín.
Okay, thank you very much. So it was 13 colonies that made up America. Trying to grab a cup of water. I just can't ring bed there. So it was made up of 13 colonies. The colonies are Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Those were the colonies that made up America. And people are saying you should bring them up. Please, kindly bring people up. Host, please, sir. Please, ma. So, the 13 colonies were located on the Atlantic. If you look at the current map of America, America never had any border, any access to the Pacific, which we call the West Side. So the West Side, America never had any access to that place. It was still the Native Americans that were controlling their lands during this time. So when the British came in, so the British created these colonies. So they were bringing, they were enslaving the indigenous population. They were bringing indentured servants. Later on, they started bringing West Africans to work as slaves in order to till the ground. And the land was so big that during this time, Europe was suffering from overpopulation. Religious persecution was happening in Europe. There was a lot of economic. That period was a period of feudalism in Europe. And a lot of people wanted to run away. All these things you call japa, all these things, it is a normal human reality. So a lot of people were running out of Europe and running, the discovery of a new land. Because when you get to America, you are white, you are European, and you have the permits. Oftentimes, they are given 10 acres, 20 acres to cultivate. So it was, and they were not under the control of the queen or kings. It doesn't matter, maybe you are Protestants or Catholic, they could live their lives. Because during this time, in Europe, in the 16th, 17th century, the Catholics were killing the Protestants were killing the Catholics. And it was during this time that the United Kingdom Britain became Protestants, they became Anglican. So they stopped being Catholic and they became Anglican, and they started persecuting the Catholics. So you have to change. So you see Christianity today, so Christianity is a religion of peace. 300, 400 years ago, it was bloodshed. So what you see today in Islam, where Sunni, Shia are fighting, killing themselves, used to happen in Christianity, where the Catholics used to kill the Protestants used to kill the Catholics. This is history. The history of the world is so dark. But one way or the other, maybe because of, the Catholics and the Protestants, they grew tired of killing each other and they love to live in peace side by side. Live your life. That's why I detest religious extremists. They are capable of destruction that you cannot fathom. Because how do you, somebody says, my God said I should kill. You cannot, there's no amount of conversation you can have with such person. You're just wasting your time. So that was the 13 colonies of America. I don't want to go. So something happened. And that's why I said the issue of war, you see our world, the way the world is, the world order, United Nations, Europe, Africa, African Union, European Union, NATO. it is built on product of war. War has been the biggest tool used to fashion our world the way it is. The world is built on conquest and is built on war and conquest. That's why, unfortunately, there are still some people within Nigeria who still have this orientation. I'm sorry to say this, I'm not trying to demarket Nigeria. As Nigeria fought Cameroon, Chad, Niger Republic, Benin Republic, or Togo for the past over 60 years of its existence, but Nigeria is at war with itself. Nigeria is at war with itself. We've been fighting wars amongst ourselves. Different levels of war. Adekoya war, Biafran war, Niger Delta war, militancy, Matasini revolt, Boko Haram, Ansaru. We've been fighting wars. Go and look at the budget of the Nigerian military every year, currently, for the past 20 years. It's as if Nigeria is fighting Benin Republic or we are fighting a neighboring country. We are at war. But I'm sorry to say this, war, it's a very, very important characteristics of countries, nation states, empires, kingdoms. That is what fashions our world. I'm not supporting war. Please, don't get me wrong. So, something happened. You see that area of North Africa, of North America today. There was a war called the 7 Years' War. And that war happened between 1754 and 1763. 1754 and 1763. That war was called the French-Indian War. You look at North America. North America, I'm not talking about Spain, Mexico. That area you see as US and Canada today used to be controlled, all those places used to be controlled by three major powers. One, three major constituents, axes. The British had controlled the 13 colonies in the Atlantic. And in the hinterland, towards the west side, used to be Indian-owned, the Red Indians, the Aboriginals. And that area of Canada, Nova Scotia, yes, Quebec, that Canada as a whole used to be owned by the French. France also used to control area of Louisiana, Alepagi Mountains, all those places. So the Empire of France in North America was bigger than the Empire of the British in the 18th century, before the French-Indian Wars. So the Indians, the indigenous people, they've been organizing themselves and fighting to preserve their lands. But I'm sorry to say this, they were already marked for extinction by the European settlers. So before they started out making alliances, sometimes the British will make alliance with them. Come on, join us. Let us fight against France. France will also tell them, join us, let us fight against British. So they were being used as pawns because they knew the land better, they knew the vegetation better, and the Indians, they wanted to control their space. So the French-Indian War was a war between the French Empire and the British Empire. And it was about territories. And when this war started, the 7-year war, it was a very, very brutal war. And some historians, some historiographers have said that the war might actually be the First World War. Because the war was not just fought in the American continent, it was fought in Europe, it was fought in Africa, it was fought there were other theaters of war. It was fought in the Caribbean. So it was even fought in some places in South America. So it was almost a global affair. That's why when people say, oh, Pan-Africanists, oh, let us all come together. You see, the current order you see in Europe is a product of war. The French, the Germans, the Italians, the English, they've killed themselves for close to 1,000 years. So that's why when you hear things like self-determination, human rights, it's not for you. It is for Europeans. Because Europeans have come to realize that if they don't respect each other, there is going to be mutual assured destruction. That's why what you see in Europe, Ukraine, Russia, is because there are some insane people that have gotten into the corridors of power in those places that are damning the consequences. Europeans have learned not to go to war with each other. They've learned it. They knew the cost is always high because they have access to the same technology. They think the same way, and they see themselves as almost the same equals when it comes to IQ, intellectualism, and race. So they are going to kill themselves. So they've respected each other, and that is why you have law and order in Europe. That's why you see, if there's any crisis in Europe, you see they are always agitated. Oh, we don't want this. We don't want this. We don't want this. They quickly try to find a solution. That's why you see Europe is one of the most stable places for the past 70 years. It wasn't like that. Europe used to be like the Middle East in the 15th, 16th, 17th century, 18th century. It used to be war. Territories changing each other, changing. So the Second World War was where Europe said, no, we are not going to be inventing machines to be wiping ourselves out. That's why you see that there are more white people in North America and South America than in Europe. Because that's why a lot of people were running away from Europe and going to South America and North America in the 16th, 17th century because Europe was unstable. It was ruled by the monarchs and the aristocrats who were always at war with each other. So let's go back to American Revolution. So after that war, so the war actually made Britain to be almost broke. Excuse me. To be broke. So Britain was taking a lot of taxes from from across its colonies in order to be able to fight the French. And actually that war also bankrupted France. France became so poor, that by the end of 1963, France could not, they had to, especially after the loss of Quebec, when these two generals, Wolfe and Montcalm, from the French side and from the British side, when they actually lost their lives in that last battle, very bloody battle, very, very bloody battle. So that was what happened. And France lost. And in war, that's why I tell people, I'm a Jagmuni, you don't go to war. I beg a lot of our people, if you go to war, they will make laws. They will say Lagos is no man's land, and you will sign it. That Lagos is no longer Yoruba land. You will sign it if you go to war and you lose. If you go to war and you lose, you are going to sign that Ibadan is no longer Yoruba land, and it will be taken from you. That was what happened to Hong Kong in China. In China, Britain defeated China. The same Britain, they defeated China and stole Hong Kong from China. They stole Hong Kong from China. Macau is a different ball game. Macau, the Portuguese loaned Macau from China. But for more than close to 200 years. By the time China became so poor in the 19th century. Portugal also took Macau out of China. Everybody was just picking up China. Japan also joined the party. They took Manchuria. They turned Manchuria into Machuco. They took it away from China. So you can't go to war. If you lose a war, let me tell you the international rule-based order. The international based order is, if you lose a land by conquest, that land is no longer belongs to you. So that's why you see that China says it wants to take back Taiwan. Because China took back Hong Kong in 1997, took back Hong Kong in 1997 and 1998. India took back Goa in 1975. Then there's also a particular place they took in, I think in the 1950s, between 1950 and 1970, Sikhistan. They took that place back too. So, the damage that happened in the 1820s, it took China close to 200 years before they could, close to 180 years before they could undo that damage and take back their lands. It is not all lands you can take back. So no matter what you do, it's always good to go through diplomacy, use the political means. War is never an option because you never can tell if you lose. They will, let's say, sign Abeokuta. Abeokuta is no longer yours. That's what's happening in Palestine. What the state of Israel, the Jews, the Israelis are saying is that the Arabs lost the 6-day war. They lost the Yom Kippur war. So because they lost the war, they defeated Jordan and took West Bank, Eastern Jerusalem, took it away from Jordan. And that place no longer belongs to Jordan or Palestine. Due to war, they've been able to take that place as part of their territory. That is the international rule order, based on the rule order. So I don't think if you lose a war, it's no longer yours. That's why you might not get it back for life. You might no longer get it back. And that's why when I look at the history, how did Texas become part of United States? Texas became part of United States because they defeated the Spain, they defeated the Mexicans, and annexed it in the United States. How did Hawaii? Hawaii was an independent country until 1990. Hawaii had close to 70 embassies across the world. Hawaii was ruled by an Hawaii indigenous monarchy. America invaded it by using, I'll call those people terrorists, non-state actors. And they came in as peacekeepers. From peacekeepers, they started creating problems. And they annexed Hawaii. So, war is never an option. No matter the problems we Yorubas have within Nigeria, we must always use the diplomatic means to the best of our ability. We are being cheated, our tax is being taken. We must negotiate. We must use the political means. We must lobby. Because some people have nothing to lose in Nigeria. If I learn train station, learning blue line, rail line, Wekoro, Kini Cement, refinery, they have nothing. Why do you bomb Sibedano? Why do you bomb Sibedano? They have nothing to lose. So if you lose war, if you go to war and their next seat is no longer yours, you go to any court of law, you cannot get it back. I hope this is very clear. So, let's go back. The American Revolution. Sorry, let me grab a cup. Please, you can bring people up so that maybe I've been speaking for more than 1 hour, close 1 hour 30 minutes. So after that war, Britain was broke. So in order to recoup the money they spent during this war, they levied a tax, and that tax was called the Stamp Act of 1765. So what this tax was that anything paper, they even changed the currency. They changed the currency, and because these are people that just fought wars. They fought in that war. The economy was already battered. The economy of the colonies was down. France already catapulted. They lost all these lands. And it was, let me also tell you this. It was because of the land of the war that France lost. That was why Quebec and other French-speaking places in Canada today became part of British Empire. If you ask yourself, why do we have French-speaking territories that the only thing they speak is French in Canada? It was because of the War of 1754 and 1763. And that is why till today, there are people in Quebec who still are fighting for self-determination, that Quebec must be an independent country in order to undo the humiliation that happened to their ancestors. So, the Stamp Act of 1755, anything from newspaper, they were taxed seriously. And this was where the problem started happening. There were a lot of riots going on, and the settlers, the people in the colony started asking questions. Why are you taxing us? People like George Washington, all this majority of the people that fought in the American Civil War, the American War of Revolution, some of the people that fought in the American War of Revolution actually gained their military skills because of the war that happened in the 7 Years' War of the French-Indian War. So they started asking questions. Why are you taxing us? We defeated the French and the Indians together. So why are you taxing us? Why are you taking our money and taking it to London? Now, according to British during that time, the people in the colonies did not have political representation. So that's where the issue, no tax without political representation, came from. They did not have political representation despite the fact that they were paying these high taxes. And they started agitating, and Britain, according to Britain, all the colonies are meant to serve London. I don't know if anybody has gotten to the United Kingdom. You are going to know, when you go to United Kingdom, if you lived in United Kingdom before, and you compare it to places like Germany, I know people on stage, people in the audience understand what I'm talking about. You are going to see that in the United Kingdom, you take out London, there is nothing against the United Kingdom. And you start asking yourself, ṣé gbogbo wọn tó wà nílùú yìí, ṣé London nìkan ló fi ṣe ni? You look at Germany, almost every cities in Germany, more than close to over 100 cities, have the same almost the same level of industrial, infrastructural development. But it's not the same in London. It's not the same in the United Kingdom. Only London. Underground rail, this, that, only London. Manchester is a little bit catching up. Edinburgh a little bit. Leeds. But it is London. Without London, there is nothing. Why? It is nothing because due to the colonial policies, almost the taxes 200, 300 years was being used for a particular place. It's too exploitative. But anyway, I don't want to critique, you need to be very diplomatic. This is an open space. But this is so that it doesn't go personal. So, the Stamp Act happened, and the American the Americans, settlers, started complaining. They started writing and telling the British, this tax has to stop. You are taking taxes from America to develop United Kingdom. Now, let me tell you something about Britain. If you look at the way Britain colonized the entire world, they used the same system. That's why European countries are having it very difficult with Asian countries like China, India. Those ones are fighting back. Even Indonesia. Those ones are trying to assert their independence because these people, they did not forget their history, and they studied British colonialism. So they studied British colonialism totally. And because they studied British colonialism, they ensured that Britain was not going to use the same system that was used to conquer them, to conquer the whole world, in order to subjugate them again. So, what did Britain do? So what did Britain do in the United Kingdom, in America? Britain created a company called the London Company. They created two companies, London Company and Plymouth Company. I'm going back into history now. You see that 13 colonies did not just spring up. It was from company. Just like Nigeria. Just like India. The Dutch also did the same thing. In India, in Nigeria, what we had is Royal Niger Company. In East Africa, we had the Royal East African Company. In India, we have the East Indian Company. To create America, what you see in America is the combination of two companies. America is a combination of two companies. London Company and Plymouth Company. You can fact check everything I'm saying. London Company, and say, oh, Nigeria was a Royal Niger Company. America was also a company. America was also a company. So that was how the companies now became colonies. Nigeria, from Royal Niger Company, it became a protectorate. We were a colony of Britain, but we became a protectorate of Britain. There's a difference between protectorates, colonies. I don't want to go deep into that. There's a reason why I'm going left, right, and center. So, ogun tí àwọn Red Indians lọ jà, Red Indians lọ side France against Britain in that 7 years war tó parí in 1763. Ibẹ̀ ni wọ́n ti lose ilẹ̀ wọn. Ẹ wá máa gbọ́ o. Nígbà tí Britain When Britain now started taxing the colonies, they start after from the Stamp Act, there's something called the Sugar Act. On to pay sugar tax today. From the sugar tax, wọ́n tún gbé lọ sí nǹkan pè ní tea tax. Inú mi dùn bá àwọn Americans wọ́n ti wà lórí stage báyìí. Àwọn Americans, àwọn Yorùbá Americans, mo kí yín ẹ káàbọ̀, wọ́n ti wà lórí stage. So wọ́n tún bẹ̀rẹ̀ tea tax. So nígbà tó bẹ̀rẹ̀ tea tax, so the tea taxes was, it was too much. Our colonies ni ṣé afẹ́ ṣerúkú ni? You are taking her, and I'm sorry, let me now shock you. When they were doing, I'll use an example of tea tax, going to call sugar tax. Part of the issue of the tea tax was that the American settlers in the colonies, they could not, they must not smuggle. They smuggle, everything. They must buy tea from the East Indian Company. So that was what they were doing. And many of the settlers, many of them were smugglers. They used to smuggle, so it disrupted their business. Sis was built on smuggling, disrupted their businesses. They were becoming poorer. Because Britain was now, Shebi, we are here to protect you. We protected you from France. We took all this land. Now you have more land to expand, but this land belongs to us. It belongs to Britain. So we are taking back the money we used to finance this war from you. And these people are saying, how? Firstly, we don't have political representation. There's no political power. And you are taking resources from us, taxes from us. 2, the taxes you are taking is not to build our infrastructure. You are taking it to London. 3, we ran away from the United Kingdom to flee from aristocrats and the monarchy. You still want to continue to subjugate us in the American colonies. Anyway, to cheapen this, the name America came from where? Please, anybody on stage, can you just shut it down? The name America came from where? Donka, you are welcome.
Hello, my brother. I believe it was the name of one guy, Amegio something. And that name skipped. I know it's the name of some guy from, yeah.
I think it comes from an Italian name.
It was an Italian guy. Yeah.
Okay. It was the name of an Italian. Okay. It was the name of an Italian explorer. His name was Amerigo Vespucci. So that was where the name America came from. So it was a corrupted name of an Italian explorer.
But my brothers in the East, they also have a version that it came from them, Sha.
Why are you like this?
They said.
So, Amerigo Vespucci, that was where the name America came from. Anyway, so the tea tax, that was where all hell let loose. And there was a particular group that was formed, that was responsible. The American Revolution that led to American independence, 1776, did not start as an armed struggle. It started by a civil disobedience, people moving and activism. And that group was called the Sons of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty was formed by, I think Sam Adams. The Sons of Liberty. And I think I'm trying to remember the founder of the Sons of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty, Samuel Adams. Also in that particular, John Hancock, yes, I'm trying to remember, James Otis, and Paul Revere. Those are, Samuel Adams was one of the biggest, was the leaders of the Sons of Liberty. They were radicals. And they were the ones telling people, we cannot be paying taxes and our taxes is taken to London. This is slavery. How can we be paying taxes and our taxes is used to develop London? How? How can our taxes be used to develop Europe instead of developing America? Why should a central government in London be determining our economic policies? We do the hard work here. We till the ground. We plant the tobacco. We buy the slaves. How men are born equal? Why are they treating us as third-class citizens? There were riots. There were protests. Instead of united the British in their usual way, they responded with fire. And there was a Boston massacre. I think it was a Boston massacre where they killed protesters, American protesters, who are carrying placards. That's why you see the history of the world is almost the same. The history of the world is almost the same. You look at Aba Women's Riot. The Aba Women's Riot actually is not in the current day Aba in Aba. It is the Abia Women Riot. Aba Division, Aba Women Division Riot. Aba was a former division that people like Calabar are part of Akwa Ibom and that area of Abia State. They were together before 1960. So it was also a revolt. I think Aba Women Riot happened before I think in 1920. I'm going to quickly check. So that was what happened. And you look at this situation, you look at there was a Boston Tea Party. So the Boston Tea Party was was a kind of a guerrilla activism where these militant Sons of Liberty, they invaded the British ship, and when they invaded the British ship, they threw away tea, that is worth close to $1 million in today's currency, because they wanted to sabotage British economic interest that was holding them hostage in America. In fact, they dressed like native Indians. And this was where the whole thing, and the 13 colonies, this rebellion started happening, that we need to stand up. We are not going to watch. We are not going to wait while Britain is going to destroy us. And Britain, I think it was King George. King George sent letter from London that all the people that are leading that protest and fight against Britain, they need to be treated like rebels, they need to be arrested, something like treason. And the British started, they just descended, started cracking down on the Americans. Americans are also Europeans anyway. So on the American settlers, that was where the war started. And the rest is history. The rest is history. And the funniest thing was, the French started supporting the American settlers so that by giving them arms, Spain was also doing the same in order to weaken and make Britain lose that colony. And Britain lost it. So what you see in America today, so it was because of that war, that entire Canada and that current day America used to be a singular block under the British Empire. Under the British Empire. Because Britain got those territories. Britain got those territories after the French-Indian War. They were able to get the Indian territory and the French territory in Canada. So coupled with the already existing 13 colonies. So what the Americans did was that Britain now hold on to that Canada part. But what the Americans did, because there was a truce, America declared independence and they had that border in that north. So America started expanding, and they designed a particular process, a particular manifesto, an ideology, an expansionist ideology called the Manifest Destiny. And that Manifest Destiny was that the destiny of America was to expand from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And millions of Native Americans were wiped out in their lands in the space of 100 years. They were just wiped out. They were just being killed. And their lands taken over. As they were taking that over, they were bringing more Europeans to come and settle into it. The history of the world, you say, God bless America. I know, God will bless America. But that is, on that ground, the bloods of indigenous people were wiped out. When you see us shouting on social media, you see us, any share, any family, we are well to do in our little ways. But we don't want to perish. We are in a country, in Nigeria, where some people believe your ancestral home is no man's land. It is not a joking matter. There's no reason why Lagos State government should not have passed a bill. You call Lagos no man's land, you go to jail. Don't make genocidal statement against me and I laugh at you. That's why you see in this same country, I'm not attacking any religion. Even though some people believe some of us are fake Muslims, some people are fake Christians, I don't care what they say. Some people want to use Islam to rebuild Sokoto Caliphate in Nigeria. I saw a particular guy. They are citing humanity. Oh, look at those young people. No, they are trying to do another Chibok on Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. With what happened it was a setup. That thing you saw in that court was a setup. Setup. Pure setup, political setup. Unfortunately, there's a lot of saboteurs within Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government. A lot of saboteurs there. A lot of saboteurs in that government. It's unfortunate. So, what happened there? You see them coming out and say, humanity. The same person was boasting. The president is a Muslim. The vice president is a Muslim. The governor of Kaduna is a Muslim. Deputy governor is a Muslim. Now the peace will come on Nigeria. Is that such a person supposed to be locked up in a proper country? As a terrorist in the making. Imagine all the Christians standing up and picking up arms. They go the way of Sudan. You think we are going to have a country? Nigerian military will not be able to defeat them in the next 200 years. Because there are people looking for how to sell weapons to Nigeria. They will get free support all over the world. Like it happened in Sudan. But because we have a lot of lunatics, and all of them say, I want Nigeria. Oh, we are not patriotic. How can you be patriotic and you want Sharia law in Nigeria? So only mental problem, me. Because I don't even understand what patriotism means anymore. This country is secular. It's multi-ethnic. You tamper with this country will go up in flames. It is made up of ethnic nations. You want to undo that balance. Nigeria will go up in war. That was why in Ross's unification decree to change the constitution, he paid with his life and the lives of his people. That's why we need to maintain this graveyard peace. Nigeria is a graveyard peace. All these issues, we must forgive each other. We just need to manage ourselves and move on. The Irish will never forgive the British for what they did to them. The Irish will never forgive the English. The Scots will never forgive the English. The Jews will never forgive the Germans. That's the bitter truth. The French will never forgive the Germans what they did to them. The Chinese will never forgive the Japanese what they did to them. Is that the way it works? Asians don't forgive. They don't forgive. But we can have a way. But China, Japan, there is graveyard peace there. Korean, Japan, in fact, they even have a form of alliance, but they've not forgiven each other. We can just have a kind of peace and move on with life. You think the war between Ukraine and Russia, will not forgive each other? Never. You think Greek will never forgive Turkey for what Turkey did to them? Especially invasion of Greek of Cyprus? They will never forgive each other. Europeans, they don't forgive. And Asians too. But everybody's in NATO. And we are within the European Union, everybody's liable to with each other. But no, they still mean each other. They still mean each other. Why do you think Hungary is not supporting Ukraine? Because Ukraine suppressed indigenous Hungarians in Hungary. Nigeria, let us forgive and forget. The Biafrans will never forgive Nigeria for what happened in the Biafran war. But we cannot be way. Quebec has not forgiven Britain for what Britain did to them in the 1763 war. So that we just have to, and that finding a way has to be in a form of social justice, equity, let's find a middle ground to make Nigeria work. But with some of the lunatics we see on Twitter, we will declare our republic. Oh, we humiliated Tinubu. There was a guy that said we humiliated Awolowo. We humiliated Abiola. We will humiliate Tinubu. They're saying that, and the guy calls himself PhD, Guinean law, Islamic law. The tweet, I have it here. And you want me to not be laughing in that kind of a country? Someone that is boasting of killing my own Ari on a Kakanfo. That is why you have to. Nigeria is not a place. It's not a place where you forgive and forget. You will be consumed. Because we refuse to do the needful. We didn't define this country. Everybody does not know their place. Come on, we are listening to idealists. Idealists are, Nigeria, once the economy is okay, once you do the GDP, I'm sorry, I'm not insulting economics. GDP-based ratio, all those kind of nonsense, Nigeria will be okay. You have not defined this country. Is this country a secular country or a theocratic country? Is this a Christian, Muslim country? Is it a unitary country or a federal country? Now, this now goes back to what we're talking about. So, I've shown 2 cases. Adubi War. I don't want to go deep into the deep. American Revolution led to the creation of the United States of America. And the current states, keep on expanding. They started getting, they bought Louisiana from France. Because France the state of Louisiana used to belong to France. And France, because they lost their North American empire, they now went to Haiti to double effort. They are now using Haiti, that small island, to get more money, more revenue. The Haitians also, many of them were Yorubas. In fact, I'm trying to remember. Dessalines, that's one of the leaders of Haitian revolution of 1804. Many of these Haitians, many of them were Ogun worshippers, many of them were Yorubas. Many of them were, in fact, before they started the war against France, they invoked Ogun, the god of war. If you go and read the book, is it The Fatherless Children or The Little Sheep, the Sheep Called Jesus, written by Dele Ogun? I might not be, me and Baba Dele Ogun might not be on the same, we might have some ideological differences, but the book is a very good book. Just, The Sheep Called Jesus. You can get the book on Amazon. So, that particular book, we're talking about how that revolution happened. So, when France lost the 7 Years' War in North America, Haiti was now where they were now using. The life expectancy of slaves in Haiti was between 28 to 30 years. So you bring in a slave.
It was 7 years.
7 years, thank you. So you bring in a slave, they were just dying. Within 2-3 years, that slave would die. They were overworked to death. So when Haiti revolted against the French Empire, one of the most powerful empires in the world. So when they revolted against the French Empire, France said, we've lost Canada. We've lost half of current day America. So you want us to come and lose Haiti? We die here. That's why Haiti is suffering till today. Look, the world is not fair. This world is not fair. Rule of law, human rights is not for black people. I know some of you are going to be in the audience. You'll be speaking grammar when you are listening to me today. What's this guy saying? Human rights is not fair. Aluta continua. Ìyàlẹ́fẹ́ jẹbọ. Ara tó dẹ̀ kó ìyà jẹ wá, especially Yorùbá, tí a fi rí díìlì gidi gbà lọ́wọ́ Britain nìyẹn ní First Republic. Sorry. Torí èmi ò respect ọmọ Yorùbá tó lọ ń gbé placard. Human rights, you did it. I'm not interested in that. My own human rights, my own mission, I'm an apostle, is to my fellow Yoruba people. And I will negotiate the best deal for my people in Nigeria. I will negotiate a good deal for them in Benin Republic, in Togo. I'm not selfish, but wọ́n máa ń jẹ ìyàbọ̀ ní. Wọ́n máa ń jẹ ìyàbọ̀. So when Haiti copied United States of America and they fought for their freedom, do you know what happened? The entire European powers ganged up and sanctioned Haiti till death. And they said Haiti must pay reparations to France. Mo fi wá ṣe ẹrú for more than 200 years. And power atúnwá ja ìjà. That's why I tell people, you need diplomacy. Even if you go to war, you need diplomatic power. You now fought that war. You got freedom. And the entire world now came together and said, the people that enslaved you, you must pay them money. Anyway, they did the same thing to the Egba people. Because after the Adubi war, 55,000 pounds was what the British said the Egba people would not to destroy British property. And they were forced to pay. They were forced to pay. That's why you saw what is happening in America. You see Ukraine-Russian war. Everything is linked though. There is nothing you see that is currently happening that has not happened before. That's why history is so extremely important. That's why America and the West is saying we are going to use the interest and some of the assets we froze from Russia to pay Ukraine. To give Ukraine, to pay Ukraine. So they taxed Haiti. That's why we say Haiti is a shithole country. The Europe made Haiti what it is. Or buy Haiti, Jenny. America in the 20th century invaded Haiti. When Haiti said we can no longer pay this money for over 100 years, Latin for France. America invaded Haiti. When Haiti started getting its feet back, that's why it is good to know your history. When Haiti started going into rice farming, what did America do? America started exporting cheap rice into America. American government subsidized rice farming. About $9.20. They subsidized rice farming in America in order to destroy the economic recovery of Haiti. Because Haiti is being made an example. Sharia Haiti, one thing share example for our leaders one. As an African leader, tó bá gbé orí kórí, in ta ṣe fún Haiti la máa ṣe fún ẹ. They destroyed it. The same thing in Zimbabwe. That's why I say people, Robert Mugabe, ilẹ̀ tó dá fún ìbàlẹ̀ wọ́n white ni, economically ìbẹ̀yìn ò dá. They will make you fail. That's why you need to play your game in this world. Mosha Luta. If you do, Yoruba people must start doing aluta. I know we are activists. Ale Soyibo. My own aluta is for my own people. I'm not anti-West. I'm not anti-Russia. I'm not anti-China. Molatanebisi Ronaldo. Anything that favors my people, I'm there. Because we have learned our lesson. But look at MQ Abiola, the speech that got MQ Abiola killed. See, Western powers, Sophia Abiola, was that Abiola said once he becomes the president of America, he is going to fight Europe and get reparations for black people. Kilo Abiola pẹ̀lú American pẹ̀lú black people láyé pẹ̀lú reparations kilo kan. So ṣé ó jẹ́ Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò Africa ni kilo kan. Reparation was what Martin Luther King said before they assassinated him. Reparation was what Malcolm X said before they assassinated him. Chris Hani said the lands in South Africa, he's going to, once he gets power. Mandela was not the leader of South Africa. No, he was not. The leader of South Africa was Chris Hani. Chris Hani when they were saying they want after apartheid has ended, what tan wa le ni, what tan kúrò nínú igbó ni, inú igbó ló wà ntiẹ̀. And they said the war is over. We are going to stop apartheid. And they want to go and interview Chris Hani. The speech is still Chris Hani, Hani. You see him, that son of Africa. Salute. He said, this is South Africa, the land of our ancestors. The land will be given back. We will return the land back to the blacks. Why will you say such a thing? Why will you say such a thing? He blasted his head off. That's the history of the world. They brought the assassin that killed him, they brought him from Poland. They brought him from Poland. That's why you need to be very, very, the leader of that Haiti revolution, Toussaint Louverture, was an Ogun worshipper. Toussaint Louverture. It's called 1804, the revolution of 1804. And so that was what. So we need to understand the way the world works. In America, she to mu jẹ ní revolution yẹn. Torí pé jẹ́ white people. Haiti sì jẹ ìyẹ́ ẹ̀dọ̀ ni. Wọ́n destroy country yẹn. Wọ́n sọdá oró ni. So that is the issue of taxation, and war and revolutions. Taxation and if you observe, the American Revolution was nothing but secessionist movement. Those who created America were secessionists. Because Britain lonely colony here now. And they seceded. It was part of the empire. Empire is the same thing as country. Empire is the same thing as country. So at that way, Nigeria is an empire. Don't deceive yourself. It's an empire. China is an empire. United Kingdom is an empire. France is an empire. But they after the Second World War, part of the things the European powers did in order to try to find peace in the world is that they banned the use of empires. Empire mode. Ask yourself, why did everybody stop using the word empire? Why? Why did everybody stop using empires? Everybody stopped using empires because I will soon start wrapping up because I need a glass of water. But I want to wrap up the lecture. I'll wrap up in 5 minutes. Empires, it means hegemony, expansionism. But go and look at what China did. China in the 1950s took Tibet. They took part of Kashmir. They expanded. All Xinjiang, all those places, they took it, they annexed it in the 1930s. Our Muslim Chinese, Uyghurs, they had their own independent country, Eastern Turkestan. They annexed it and brutally killed millions of people there in order to take it to part of China. That's an empire. That's an empire. America is an empire. So they just use country. That's why you're going to look at countries like Togo. Togo no country. Like America. That's just a bus stop. compared to America. Bus station, that's only here, but like compared to America. That's an empire. Nigeria is an empire. And Nigeria has not found its identity. Today, they go into villages, wipe people out, take over the place, rename it. That's why some people believe the taxes in Ogun State from my Ijebu and Egba people should be used to be financing their place because they believe they own Nigeria. And they are promising to humiliate a sitting president. Because the Yoruba, they know the Yoruba people will do nothing. This generation will change that madness. We will. Because Yoruba people, we fought for this country's independence. Our fathers and mothers bled for Nigeria. Cocoa farm, Ogun Agbekoya. Nigeria did not borrow to fund Biafran war. They were taxing our fathers to fund the Biafran war. Our brain power, blood, sweat died in the Eastern Front to keep Nigeria as one. We've suffered for this country. We won an election, they cancelled it. And they started killing our leaders, one after the other. And some sons of perdition are coming to say, we will humiliate the sitting president. And we should forget about tribalism. But the same people will be boasting. The North will not forget. After 3 hours, they will still, one WhatsApp group, they will still come back and say, let us forget about tribalism. 2027, later on, the North will not forget. The North will not forget because you want to practice federalism. If Nigeria does not practice federalism, where resources, administration is not based on productivity, Nigeria has no reason to exist as a country. I want to say this. You will never see me insult Nigeria militants. No. Why should I? Why should I? When I knew what was done to Ken Saro-Wiwa and the Ogoni people, I'm a man of conscience. I know about the American Revolution. You cannot take the resources of people, the sweat of people, without any form of giving them back what belongs to them and expect them to sit down. No, human beings are not like that. They will fight back. So, I was trying to say something. You look at the war between the American settler colonies and British Empire. They call it revolution. Right? To succeed. One more paint here. You know, when you say I'm a revolutionary, people are happy. But when you look at Adubi, they say, oh, it was a war. Go and look at, they say, British Empire, British recruits in West Africa, in Africa, versus the rebels. Rebels. But she paints àwọn bàbá wa nìyẹn. But she paints bàbá wa nìyẹn. So we need to really do the needful. The Yoruba people were not conquered in Nigeria. So why should we? Because the reality is, before the Niger Delta, I hope we don't have a Niger Delta crisis anymore. What the Niger Deltans were saying is, why are you treating us like conquered people? Because that's the reality. That area of the country, with the exploitation of the resources that was used all over Nigeria to cater mostly for the oligarchs in Nigeria, that place is being treated like a conquered territory. So we know there was a Biafran war, and you are treating that place like a conquered territory. What about the Southwest or the rest of Nigeria, where you are not taking our taxes and you are sharing it based on population and land mass? So some of us, for every $10, for a lot of our people abroad here, washing toilets, I'm sorry, I'm not talking down on you. There's beauty in hard work. So if we are abroad, working in the cold, àti wà ní winter and sí òtútù ti wà ní Western America, ní Europe, ní Canada. So tá bá send owó sílé, VAT is taken out of that money for our parents. We send that money to build Yoruba land. You now take 80 to 90% of our VAT to people that will be coming to boast on Twitter. We are going to humiliate Tinubu the way we humiliated Awolowo, the way we humiliate Abiola. And you want us to be calm. And you want us to welcome and say patriotism. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. There must be productivity. Taxation without that is not based on productivity is a colonial system. So what we have in Nigeria is like a part of the country is behaving as if they own the rest of us. That's the bitter truth. And what President Tinubu is trying to make them is a kind of social engineering to make them change their feudal lifestyle. And they declared war on him. They declared war on him. Mo ti gbọ́ sọkúsọ àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá kò tiẹ̀ mọ̀ nǹkan kan ẹ máa rí wọn nu suit. Rubbish ni wọ́n máa sọ. Ọmọ ẹ̀kọ́ wọ́n ní ẹ̀mọ̀ Yorùbá ní ọmọ gọ̀ wọ́n ní kó mọ̀ kú. Ìbá gọ̀ ló máa pọ̀ ọmọ yẹn. Ẹ fẹ́ ṣiṣẹ́ kú òyìnbó lẹ máa sọ kó wọ́n lè kẹ́ ẹ̀sọ̀ òyìnbó kú. You want to continue to work for some people to be enjoying. You will never get that good roads. You will never get that good schools. Because there's no revenue, there's no resources to build it. Then you start wondering, you are doing everything right. Where is the money going to? Olówó kan, òtòṣì mẹ́fà, òtòṣì ní gbogbo wọn. The Southwest is economically viable in a region of over 6 regions. All of us are poor. To make Nigeria work, the rest of Nigeria must work. And to make Southwest function, the rest of Nigeria must work. And that's why you can have peace. So if the people of Southwest, Middle Belt, they believe their taxes is coming back to them, and maybe 20%, 30% is going to other states in the name of comradeship, we're all Nigerians. The money is going, there's something in Canada called the Equalization Fund, where you take some little percentage to go to some states that are, some provinces that are poor, so that they don't go broke. That makes this country. If this generation does not do it, the coming generation will do it. Why? Because oil is dwindling. Nigeria is going to be using more of service taxes and everything to run it. We are not going to take our resources. We are not minorities. I'm sorry to say those words. Yoruba has not, you didn't conquer us, and you will not be able to conquer us. You've never fought any war in Nigeria. Middle Belt and Yoruba fought the Biafran war, not you. Not the Northwest. Not Northwest. That's why Nigeria needs an institutional change. System change. We don't need messiahs. Tinubu is not going to change the country except he changes the system, and he's changing the system. All this issue of Peter Obi I will stop spending money anyhow. We don't need such people. We've had somebody that says he had no shoes. We saw what happened. We saw somebody that says he only has 10 cows. So we need somebody that will say, this system is not working. This is common sense. Let us fix Nigeria through the system. For the next 3 years, 2 years is going to be a long year in Nigeria. Because the feudalists are going to fight hard. Because the feudalists have turned themselves into local colonizers. Go and look at their tweets. They are young. These are people between the age of 20 to 40. They are going to be your senators. They are going to be your House of Reps. Especially from the Northwest. Look at how they think. They don't even understand what federalism is all about. They believe what the military has done is their birthright. They don't believe Nigeria should be a union of equals. They believe it should be a master-servant relationship. And they be arguing under Islam. I know there's a lot of intellectuals in the North, young people that are also trying to speak up. But with these multitudes of people who believe, they just want to shout one. What does Nigeria mean? Nigeria is not an organic identity. I'm your countryman. I'm not your brother and sister. We are just in the same country. By British creation. It's not interest to say that. That's why America works. America still maintains that New Mexico is different from New York. United Kingdom that was busy destroying the whole world learned the bitter lessons when the Scots, the Irish stood up and said, no, we are Irish, we are different from English. That's why they run the United Kingdom. You cannot be taking taxes from Scotland to be building London. Because it's not in Shenway. It is slavery. You cannot be taking our taxes to build Zamfara. Zamfara must work to use the money it earns to feed itself. If that starts happening, Zamfara will stop sponsoring religion. Zamfara will start sponsoring industries. Zamfara will start sponsoring schools, building universities. Instead of sponsoring mass marriages every Friday after Jumat. That's how to prevent wars in Nigeria. Because if this conversation is not stopped, there will be a sense of injustice. Some people are going to feel aggrieved. And we know there's a lot of agitations across Nigeria. Nigerians don't want to hear the truth. They just want to rant. And say, we don't need a new constitution. We just need a good person that will make things work. As if, it's maybe the kind of educational system. Because the educational system of Awolowo of those days is far more advanced than what you have currently. And this is our own generation, and they are even more dangerous. People that are going to Wikipedia to start editing Wikipedia, to start rewriting people's history and identity in order to gain political power. Is that the kind of people you think they will not plunge this country into war? They will. And we have a chance, because Nigeria collapsing is not good for West Africa. We should avoid war at all costs. We should ensure there is fiscal federalism in Nigeria at all costs. We have an Awoist in power. Some people do not care if Nigeria becomes a Sudan. Don't forget, there was a time 5, 6, 7 years ago that a lot of states in Nigeria could not pay salary for 10 months, 12 months. That cannot happen in any European country. There will be a total chaos. The kind of shock absorber we have in Nigeria, you cannot have that in some places in the world. We've been so lucky in Nigeria that we still have a country. The border was burnt on live television. Those that burnt it are still bragging to you today. You can't try that in some countries. That is the end. It was just somebody burning himself that started the Arab Spring around 2011. And we don't know what will spark the unrest in Nigeria, because we refuse to define this country and make it work. Nigeria is going to be running more on taxes for the next foreseeable future. Taxes is what countries like Germany, many of the powerful countries, they use the tax. It's a tax that they use. It's not oil and gas. Like Nigeria has been doing. Oil and gas is not enough anymore. But without fiscal federalism, there will be revolt.